Hello and welcome to another episode of the Halloween Podcast. I am your host, Lyle Perez, and you're listening to episode 35 of our special series, The Dark Record, where we uncover history's eeriest stories, one strange and unsettling case at a time. In a quiet pasture of Elbert County, Georgia, a monument rose in 1980 that baffled locals and fascinated the world. 6 granite slabs, towering nearly 20 feet high, carved with cryptic commandments for humanity. No one knew who paid for them. No one knew why. Some saw wisdom in their message. Others saw a warning, an omen of hidden powers planning humanity's future. And when the monument itself was destroyed in an explosion decades later, its mystery only deepened. The next entry into the dark record, the Georgia Guidestones. Let's begin. The story of the Georgia Guidestones begins in the summer of 1979 when a stranger walked into Elberton Granite Finishing Company in Elbert County, Georgia. He introduced himself with a name that was clearly not his own, Robert C. Christian. He told the president of the company, Joe Fendley, that he represented a small group of loyal Americans. Their purpose, he explained, was to build a monument that would serve as a guide for humanity after some future catastrophe. Christian's proposal was audacious. He wanted to erect a massive structure of polished granite slabs, stones that would rival ancient megaliths, aligned with astronomical precision. Fendley was skeptical, even amused. Many assumed Christian was eccentric, or perhaps playing a prank. But when Christian produced serious funds and followed through with bank arrangements handled by a local banker named Wyatt Martin, skepticism gave way to intrigue. Martin became the only man who ever knew Christian's true identity, and he swore to keep that secret until his death. The design called for 6 enormous granite slabs, weighing more than 237,000 pounds in total. 4 upright stones stood in a cross pattern, capped by a massive central slab and a horizontal capstone. A final explanatory tablet lay flat on the ground nearby. The whole arrangement stood just over 19 feet high and 52 feet wide. Locals quickly nicknamed it America's Stonehenge. But this was more than an architectural curiosity. The Guidestones were carefully engineered with astronomical functions. A hole drilled through the central pillar allowed a viewer to see the North Star at night. A slot cut through the stone aligned with the rising sun at solstices and equinoxes. Another opening tracked the sun's noontime zenith, acting as a calendar. The builders had created not only a monument, but a timepiece, a device to orient future generations to the cosmos. When the Guidestones were unveiled to the public on March 22, 1980, the event drew a modest but curious crowd. Few had any idea what was inscribed on the stones until they approached and read the words. On each of the 4 upright slabs, 10 guiding principles were engraved in 8 modern languages: English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. Later, shorter inscriptions were also carved in ancient languages: Babylonian cuneiform, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. From the very beginning, the Guidestones carried an air of mystery. Who had paid for them? Why Elbert County, a quiet place known mainly for its granite quarries? Why such a cryptic set of commandments? The townspeople had no answers, only the presence of the stones themselves, towering, silent, and unsettling. What had started as one man's strange request had become a monument that would stand for decades, sparking wonder, outrage, and conspiracy in equal measure. The words carved into its polished surface were meant to last through centuries. They were a message to the future, but they were also a riddle to the present. The most striking feature of the Guidestones wasn't their size or design, it was the message cut into their polished granite faces. On each of the 4 upright slabs, the same 10 principles were carved in 8 languages, a kind of universal proclamation intended to speak across nations and centuries. The messages were simple, yet unsettling. To some, they read as wisdom for a better world. To others, they sounded like commands for a dark future. The first line was the most controversial: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. In a world of billions, this was no mere suggestion. It implied that humanity needed to be reduced by over 90%. Whether through catastrophe or design, it raised chilling questions. Was this guidance for survival after a global disaster, or an instruction manual for depopulation? The second inscription followed logically: guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. To some, it echoed responsible family planning. To others, it hinted at eugenics, conjuring fears of enforced control over who could live and who could not. The remaining messages emphasized themes of global governance, justice, and harmony. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. The words seemed to envision a unified world order, an international system rising from the ashes of chaos. Other lines called for environmental stewardship and personal responsibility, avoid petty laws and useless officials, balance personal rights with social duties, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. And finally, the last message: be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature. Beneath the monument lay an explanatory tablet set into the ground that described the astronomical features of the stones, their dimensions, and the languages inscribed upon them. It also referenced a time capsule supposedly buried beneath, though when the stones were later dismantled in 2022, no such capsule was found. The empty space only added another layer of mystery. Alongside the inscriptions, the astronomical features of the Guidestones fascinated observers. The slot in the central stone aligned with the rising sun on solstices and equinoxes, marking the passage of time. A hole drilled through the pillar pointed directly at Polaris, the North Star, serving as a constant reference point. A narrow slit acted as a calendar, channeling sunlight at noon to mark the date. The Guidestones weren't just a message, they were a cosmic compass, tying human survival to the cycles of the universe. To some visitors, these features suggested the stones were practical tools, designed for a future world rebuilding after collapse. To others, the combination of cryptic commandments and celestial alignments hinted at something more occult, even ritualistic. The monument seemed to belong to both science and mysticism, reason and religion, the future and the past. The ambiguity was deliberate, and it sparked immediate unease. The Guidestones looked permanent, immovable, and eternal, but their meaning was as malleable as the fears and hopes of those who read them. For the people of Elbert County, the quiet granite fields of Georgia had suddenly become a stage for humanity's most troubling questions.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
From the moment the inscriptions were revealed, the Guidestones drew suspicion. For some, they were a curiosity, a tourist stop in rural Georgia. For others, they were a symbol of hidden agendas, even evil. The first commandment, maintaining humanity under 500 million, sparked immediate fear. In the middle of the Cold War, with nuclear annihilation looming, some believed the stones were built as a survival guide for a devastated world. But in darker interpretations, the message looked like an elite blueprint for depopulation. Religious critics quickly condemned the Guidestones as satanic. Preachers denounced them from pulpits, pointing to their calls for one language, one court, one order, as proof of an anti-Christian New World Order. The pseudonym R.C. Christian only fueled this speculation. Was it a nod to the Rosicrucians, a secret society often tied to occult traditions? Or was it simply a mask to hide the sponsor's true identity? No one could say, and the secrecy kept suspicion alive. Over the decades, the Guidestones became a magnet for vandalism. Graffiti scarred the granite, carrying slogans like "Death to the New World Order" and "Jesus will overcome." In 2008, vandals chiseled Bible verses into the surface. In 2014, another round of graffiti declared, "I am Isis, goddess of love," conflating conspiracy theories with modern fear. Security cameras had to be installed, but even then, the stones remained targets for those who saw them as sinister. The controversy also entered politics. In 2010, Georgia gubernatorial candidate Karen Handel faced questions about her support for their removal. In 2022, Candace Taylor, another candidate for governor, openly called the Guidestones satanic and promised to tear them down if elected. Her words gained national attention, amplifying the monument's reputation as more than stone. It was a lightning rod for culture wars. Through it all, the community of Elbert County was divided. Some saw the Guidestones as a unique landmark, drawing tourists to a region known for granite, but little else. Others saw them as an embarrassment, a dark symbol rising from the red clay fields. The more people debated their meaning, the deeper the mystery seemed to grow. By the time the 21st century arrived, the Guidestones weren't just a monument. They were a battleground of interpretation, attracting everyone from conspiracy theorists to curious travelers. Their very presence demanded explanation, and in the absence of answers, fear and speculation filled the gap. At the center of the Guidestones mystery was a man who was never truly known. He called himself Robert C. Christian, but from the beginning he made it clear the name was a pseudonym. He told Joe Fendley, the Granite Company president, that he represented a small group of loyal Americans who had been planning the monument for 20 years. Who these people were, or what their true intentions might have been, was never revealed. Christian's dealings were careful and professional. When he first approached Fenley, he was met with skepticism. The scale of the monument seemed absurd, and Fenley quoted an inflated price to discourage him. To his surprise, Christian didn't flinch. He arranged a meeting with a local banker, Wyatt Martin, and placed funds in trust to cover the entire project. Martin, sworn to secrecy, became the only man to ever know Christian's real identity. He carried that secret to his grave, refusing all pressure to reveal it. This decision, while honoring Christian's request, left the mystery wide open. Journalists, researchers, and conspiracy theorists have spent decades trying to uncover who Christian really was. Some speculated he was a wealthy eccentric, inspired by the atomic age and fearful of global collapse. Others insisted he was a member of a secret society, perhaps the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, or even a branch of the Illuminati. The pseudonym R.C. Christian seemed too perfect, echoing the initials of Christian Rosenkreutz, the mythical founder of the Rosicrucian order. Christian himself left little behind besides the Guidestones. He published a book in 1986 titled Common Sense Renewed, in which he outlined philosophies similar to those inscribed on the monument, advocating population control, environmental balance, and global governance. But even in print, he revealed nothing of himself. He wrote as a man speaking for a larger cause, not an individual seeking recognition. The secrecy had consequences. By shielding his identity, Christian turned the stones into a canvas for speculation. Every unanswered question became an invitation to imagine darker motives. If the intentions were noble, why hide? If they were sinister, what was the real plan? Silence amplified the monument's aura. In the end, R.C. Christian remained a ghost in the story he created. His true face, his true circle, his true intent, all were swallowed by the anonymity he demanded. What he left behind was a monument that outlived him, towering over the Georgia landscape for more than 4 decades, speaking loudly with words carved in stone, while the man himself vanished into obscurity. For more than 40 years, the Georgia Guidestones stood quietly on their hill outside Elberton. Tourists came, vandals struck, politicians debated, but the monument endured, seemingly eternal. Then, in the early morning hours of July 6, 2022, the stones finally fell. At around 4 a.m., a powerful explosion shook the monument. Security cameras captured the flash of light, and when the smoke cleared, one of the upright slabs lay shattered on the ground. The blast had also damaged the capstone, leaving the entire structure unstable. Later footage showed a silver sedan speeding away from the site, but no arrests were ever made. To this day, the identity of the bomber remains unknown. Local authorities quickly concluded the monument was too unsafe to leave standing. By that afternoon, heavy machinery had demolished the remaining stones. The Guidestones, which had been built to last for centuries, were gone in less than a day. The destruction was greeted with mixed emotions. Some mourned the loss of a unique landmark, an American curiosity that had drawn visitors from around the world. Others celebrated, seeing the demolition as the end of what they considered a satanic or elitist symbol. Online forums lit up with conspiracy theories, speculating that the bombing had been orchestrated to cover up secrets hidden beneath the site, or that the government itself had wanted the stones gone. When the rubble was cleared, no time capsule was found, despite the plaque that had long claimed one was buried beneath the Guidestones. The empty space only deepened the enigma. For decades, people had imagined a sealed vault containing answers, a letter from R.C. Christian perhaps, or artifacts meant for a future age. Instead, there was nothing but dirt and questions. The remains of the Guidestones were turned over to the Elberton Granite Association for storage. Whether they will ever be reassembled or placed in a museum is uncertain. For now, the fragments sit hidden away, just as mysterious in pieces as they were in whole. In the end, the destruction did not erase the mystery. If anything, it amplified it. They became a monument not just of stone, but of secrecy, conspiracy, and the enduring human need to search for meaning, even in rubble.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
Even in ruins, the Georgia Guidestones continue to cast a long shadow. What began as a cryptic project in rural Georgia grew into one of the most talked about monuments in America, a lightning rod for conspiracy, curiosity, and cultural fascination. For some, the Guidestones represented a noble vision. The messages carved into their granite faces were read as a survival guide, a blueprint for humanity to rebuild after nuclear war, plague, or environmental collapse. In the 1980s, when Cold War anxieties ran high, that interpretation gave them a practical, if unsettling, relevance. They were instructions for the last survivors standing on a ruined earth. But for others, the inscriptions were sinister. Calls for population control, global language, and a unified world court were cast as evidence of a secret elite plotting to dominate humanity. Evangelical critics called them satanic. Conspiracy theorists linked them to the Illuminati, Freemasons, or shadow governments. Their anonymity only fueled suspicion. R.C. Christian's silence was interpreted not as humility, but as concealment. The less people knew, the more they imagined. Over time, the Guidestones seeped into popular culture. They were featured in documentaries, podcasts, and online forums. They appeared in novels and inspired episodes of television shows. Musicians referenced them. Artists replicated the famous silhouette of their cross-shaped structure. On the internet, their image became shorthand for hidden agendas and global conspiracy. The monument also became a case study in modern folklore. Unlike ancient mysteries such as Stonehenge or the pyramids, the Guidestones were thoroughly modern, born of the late 20th century and commissioned in broad daylight. Yet, because their purpose was unclear and their author unknown. They were mythologized just as much as the relics of antiquity. They showed how quickly mystery can grow around even the most recent of creations when silence and secrecy are involved. Even their destruction has only strengthened their legend. To some, the bombing was a victory, a literal toppling of what they believed to be an evil symbol. To others, it was an assault on history, the erasure of a mystery that still deserved answers. And for many, the absence itself now serves as a new kind of monument. Where once granite slabs stood, now there is only an empty field, and an echo of questions that will never be resolved. The Guidestones may be gone, but their meaning continues to live on. They are remembered less for what they said and more for what they suggested. That the future of humanity can be carved in stone, but never fully explained. What lingers most about the Georgia Guidestones is not just the stone or even the words carved into it, but the silence that surrounded them. For over 40 years, the monument stood without explanation. The man who commissioned it never revealed his true name. The group he claimed to represent never stepped forward, and the purpose behind it all remained hidden. That silence became louder than the granite itself. I find it striking how quickly mystery fills the gaps left by absence. When people don't have answers, they create them. Some looked at the Guidestones and saw wisdom, messages about balance, peace, and survival. Others looked at the exact same inscriptions and saw threats, population control, global domination, and sinister power. The stones themselves never changed. It was our perception that gave them meaning, and in that way, they became a mirror more than a monument. The destruction of the Guidestones in 2022 should have ended the story, but instead, it added another chapter. An anonymous attacker with explosives erased the monument in seconds, but that act only ensured it would never fade into obscurity. Now, the mystery is doubled. Not only do we still wonder who built the Guidestones, we wonder who destroyed them and why. The absence is as powerful as the presence once was. To me, the Guidestones are a reminder of how uneasy we are with uncertainty. We want to know who, why, and what it all means. When those answers are denied to us, we fill the silence with speculation, fear, and sometimes hope. But perhaps the greatest power of the Guidestones is that they forced us to confront that silence. They made us ask questions we may never be able to answer. In that way, the Guidestones achieved what monuments are meant to do. They outlived their builders. They became larger than their message. And even in their destruction, they continue to haunt us, an echo in stone of our own need for meaning. That brings us to the end of episode 35 of The Dark Record. We've traced the Georgia Guidestones from their mysterious commissioning by a man known only as R.C. Christian, to the cryptic commandments etched in granite, the suspicion and controversy they stirred, and finally, to their violent destruction in 2022. What was meant to guide humanity became a mirror for its fears, its hopes, and its conspiracies. The stones are gone, but their mystery endures. Remembered, retold, and now added to the record. Next time, we travel to New Mexico, where a strange, low-frequency sound has haunted the residents of a small desert town. Some call it a hum, others call it torment, but no one has ever fully explained it. We'll explore the Tao's hum. Until then, I'm Lyle Perez, and this has been the Halloween Podcast presenting The Dark Record. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps keep the show alive and weird. You can also explore sources, extras, and more at our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Halloween Podcast or at our website, thehalloweenpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Keep your eyes on the shadows. And remember, some monuments don't fall to time. They fall to secrets too heavy to stand. Have a good night.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.